In 1859, one book changed how humanity sees itself. No war, no revolution, just 490 pages, and the world was never the same. But here's what almost nobody tells you. The man who wrote it was terrified of it. Charles Darwin sat on his theory for 20 years before publishing. He called it, in a letter to a friend, like confessing a murder. Why would a scientist describe his own discovery as a crime? Because he knew what he was about to unleash. A question so dangerous it still splits classrooms, courtrooms, and families today. Did life really evolve from one form into another? Or did Darwin miss something? Over the next few minutes, we are not going to tell you what to believe. We're going to show you the evidence, all of it, and let you be the judge. This is an investigation. Let's begin where Darwin did, on a ship, in the middle of the ocean, with a question he couldn't shake. December 1831. A cramped 90-foot ship called the HMS Beagle leaves England. On board, a 22-year-old with no scientific degree, prone to seasickness, named Charles Darwin. He wasn't hunting for a revolution. He was just a naturalist collecting beetles. Then the ship reached a cluster of volcanic islands 600 miles off Ecuador, the Galápagos. And something didn't add up. On different islands, Darwin found finches, same general bird. But the beaks? Wildly different. Some thick and crushing, built for cracking seeds. Others thin and needle-like, built for probing insects out of bark. Darwin's question was deceptively simple. Why would God, or nature, bother designing 13 different beaks for 13 tiny islands? Unless nobody designed them at all. Unless the birds themselves had changed, generation by generation, shaped by whatever food was available on each island. That single idea, that species are not fixed but flexible, would take Darwin 2 more decades to fully build into a theory. And when he finally published it in 1859, its title told you exactly how radical it was. On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. But what did Darwin actually claim? Because here's where most documentaries, and most arguments, get it wrong from the very first sentence. Darwin's idea was not survival of the strongest. That phrase isn't even his. It came later, from philosopher Herbert Spencer. Darwin's actual mechanism is colder, simpler, and stranger. It has 3 ingredients. 1. Variation. No 2 individuals in a species are identical. Some finches naturally hatch with slightly thicker beaks. 2. Inheritance. Offspring tend to inherit their parents' traits. 3. Differential survival. In a drought, when only hard seeds remain, thick-beaked finches eat, thin-beaked ones starve. Run this process over thousands of generations, and the population's average beak shape shifts. Nobody designed it. Nobody chose it. It's an automatic filter, nature keeping what works and discarding what doesn't. Darwin called it natural selection. And here's the part that gets lost in translation. Darwin did not know why variation existed in the first place. He never heard of a gene. DNA wouldn't be discovered for another 94 years. That gap, the missing mechanism, is exactly where his critics, then and now, took aim. So did science ever fill that gap? Let's fast forward to a monastery garden and a monk with 28,000 pea plants. While Darwin was writing in England, an Augustinian monk named Gregor Mendel was crossbreeding pea plants in Moravia, tracking exactly how traits like color and height passed from parent to offspring. Mendel had discovered the unit of heredity, what we now call the gene. His work was ignored for 35 years. Nobody connected it to Darwin until after both men were dead. Then, in the 20th century, everything converged. Scientists discovered that genes are made of DNA, and that DNA occasionally copies itself imperfectly. A single letter changes, a sequence duplicates, a chromosome flips. These accidents are called mutations, and this is the raw material Darwin was missing. Combine mutation, which creates new variation, with natural selection, which filters it, and you get a complete engine. This fusion is called the modern synthesis, finalized in the 1940s. It's the version of evolution taught in biology today, and it converts Darwin's 1859 idea into something testable in a lab. And it has been tested. Which brings us to the evidence, the part everyone actually wants to see. Here's the claim evolutionary biologists make. This process isn't theoretical. It's been directly observed, repeatedly, in real time. Exhibit 1. Bacteria. Every year, antibiotic-resistant bacteria kill over 1 million people worldwide. Why? Because when you flood a bacterial population with penicillin, most die. But a rare few carry a mutation that survives. They multiply. Within days, you have an entire population immune to a drug that used to kill them. That is natural selection, filmed under a microscope, happening in real time. Exhibit 2. Darwin's finches, revisited. In 1973, biologists Peter and Rosemary Grant moved to the Galápagos to measure finch beaks, literally with calipers, year after year. In 1977, a brutal drought killed 85% of the finch population. The survivors? Birds with beaks on average 5 to 6% larger, just enough to crack the tough seeds left behind. The Grants watched natural selection reshape a population in a single season. Exhibit 3. The peppered moth. In industrial England, soot blackened tree bark. Pale moths, once camouflaged, became easy prey for birds. Dark-colored moths, once rare, suddenly blended in and survived. Within decades, the moth population flipped from mostly light to mostly dark, then flipped back once pollution laws cleaned the air. Antibiotic resistance, finch beaks, moth color, dog breeds shaped from wolves in a few thousand years. All of it demonstrates the same underlying mechanism working inside a species. Biologists call this microevolution, and virtually no scientist and few critics dispute that it happens. The evidence is direct, repeated, and undeniable. But here's where the real question begins. Because everything you just saw, beak size, fur color, drug resistance, is variation within a species. A finch stayed a finch. A moth stayed a moth. So does the same mechanism explain something bigger? The emergence of entirely new species? Or the vast tree connecting bacteria to blue whales? This is where the documentary, and the science itself, gets genuinely contested. Here's the central question this investigation promised. Has anyone ever actually witnessed one species becoming a new one? The honest answer is more interesting than a yes or no. Speciation has been observed, but usually in organisms that reproduce fast. In 1988, biologist Richard Lenski started growing E. coli in flasks, tracking over 75,000 generations across more than 3 decades. Partway through, one population evolved an entirely new ability, metabolizing citrate in oxygen, something E. coli was not known to do. It was a measurable, permanent, inherited change traced to specific mutations. In plants, biologists have watched new species form within a single generation through a process called polyploidy, when a plant's chromosome count doubles, instantly making it unable to breed with its parent species. This has been documented in real time in wild populations, including a new species of hybrid grass called Spartina anglica, and in evening primroses observed to speciate in cultivation. Then there are ring species, like the Ensatina salamanders wrapped around California's Central Valley. Neighboring populations interbreed freely along the entire ring, but the two populations at the far ends, where the ring closes, cannot interbreed at all. It's a snapshot of speciation frozen mid-process, geography acting as a time machine. So, direct observation of new species arising does exist, especially in fast-reproducing organisms. But here's the honest limitation, acknowledged by evolutionary biologists themselves. Nobody has watched a fish become an amphibian or a reptile become a bird. Those transitions, according to the standard evolutionary timeline, unfolded over millions of years, far beyond any human lifespan or laboratory experiment. For those larger transitions, the evidence isn't a video recording. It's a convergence of independent clues. Fossils showing intermediate anatomy, like Tiktaalik, a 375 million-year-old fish with wrist bones, found in exactly the rock layer where paleontologists predicted a fish-to-land animal transition would appear. Shared genetic code, including the same broken genes turning up in the same places in humans and other primates. Embryos of very different species that look strikingly alike in their earliest stages. Evolutionary biologists argue these independent lines of evidence all point the same direction, which is why they consider common descent one of the most well-supported conclusions in biology. This is also exactly where critics, including some credentialed scientists and philosophers of science, raise their sharpest objections. They argue that fossils show gaps, not gradual chains. They ask whether small, observed changes in beak size or bacteria can really be extrapolated without direct proof to explain entirely new organs or body plans. Some, like biochemist Michael Behe, have proposed that certain biological structures are irreducibly complex, that removing any one part would make them useless, so they couldn't have evolved gradually. Mainstream biologists have published detailed responses to this specific claim, arguing that gradual pathways for these structures have in fact been identified, and the debate continues in scientific literature to this day. It's important to be precise here. These objections are not a fringe fantasy, but they also do not represent the current consensus among working evolutionary biologists, which overwhelmingly supports common descent as the best explanation for the evidence. What remains genuinely, actively debated within evolutionary science itself is not whether evolution happened, but details of how, the pace of change, the role of chance versus selection, and how certain complex structures arose. Conflating those two different debates, did evolution happen versus exactly how did every detail happen, is one of the most common distortions on both sides of this argument. Now for the twist even Darwin fans rarely hear. Darwin himself was wrong about several things. He believed inheritance blended together like paint, which, as his own contemporaries showed mathematically, would actually erase variation over generations rather than preserve it. He had no concept of a gene. He underestimated the age of Earth by mixing outdated physics into his calculations. He assumed evolution moved at a slow, constant pace, a claim later challenged by paleontologists Niles Eldredge and Stephen Jay Gould, whose 1972 theory of punctuated equilibrium argued that evolution often happens in short, rapid bursts, separated by long periods of almost no change at all. So yes, in a very real sense, Darwin got things wrong. But here's the twist inside the twist. Science correcting Darwin is not evolution failing, it's evolution succeeding as a science. A theory that can absorb 165 years of new discoveries, genetics, DNA, the fossil record, and direct laboratory observation, and grow stronger, not weaker, is doing exactly what good science is supposed to do. So, did Darwin get it wrong? On the mechanism, on the details, on the pace, yes, repeatedly, and science moved on without him, exactly as it should. On the big idea that life is not fixed, that it changes, that a mindless filtering process operating on random variation can, given enough time, produce the staggering diversity of life on Earth, the evidence collected across genetics, paleontology, and direct laboratory observation has only grown since 1859. But the honest, unglamorous truth is this. Some of the biggest transitions in life's history were never filmed. They're reconstructed, carefully, rigorously, but reconstructed, from fossils, DNA, and inference. That is not a weakness unique to evolution. It's how every historical science works, from cosmology to geology. But it is also exactly why, more than a century and a half later, the debate is not entirely closed. Darwin sat on his theory for 20 years because he understood something we often forget. The biggest ideas are the ones that demand the most scrutiny. He gave us the question. The evidence is still being written. The rest is up to you.